Thank you. Thank you. I hope I'm audible. And maybe we could have done it in a smaller roundtable format, but it's fine. As long as we have attentive audience, I think we should be good. But hi guys, thank you. Thank you for taking time out and listening to us. I'm Nachiket. I lead DoubleVerify's India business. DoubleVerify is sorry. So DoubleVerify is an ad verification company. What do we mean by ad verification is it's an ad tech tool which helps build your media quality, better your media quality, and bring transparency and trust in your digital advertisements, right? How we do that, we'll talk about it. But what we're going to cover and in this session are majorly four things. One is defining the media quality, right? How to define it and why it is so important, right? Second thing is how can we better it? Third thing, what are the challenges, right? To kind of better it. And of course, what are the key takeaways for us, when we start thinking about digital strategies, right? Very cliched line, let's keep it interactive. Ask questions if you have any. Don't wait for the end. But before we start about bettering media quality, first understand what really media quality means in first place. Right? What is media quality? We have seen all of this. Right? These are the headlines in recent times, and I'm not sure if you have seen today what has happened with YouTube. Right? It's a big mess. Right? Where there are serious allegations against YouTube on the kind of ad placements that are delivered on TrueView outside of Google ecosystem, right? So these things will keep happening, right? And interestingly, if you see on the right hand side corner, bottom corner, a lot of influencers these days are not hesitating to call out brands, right, who are not following ethical practices. Or somebody like, I don't know the name, but Swara Bhaskar is calling out Zomato for not being mindful on what they're doing in terms of their digital strategy and how they are placing their ads, where they're placing their ads, right? And gone are the days where these instances could have been hidden under a blanket. It may not happen any longer, right? Anybody can take a screenshot of your ad, tag anybody globally, and ask you questions in terms of what are you doing about it, right? And there are many examples. I'm sure all of us would have gone through that phase someday or the other. I was talking to one of the tech brands on one of the panels, and he mentioned that the same thing happened to him. One ad placement went wrong somewhere. Somebody took a screenshot, tagged Global ID on Twitter, made a tweet out of it, and the hell broke loose, right? So it's not about whether we want to do it, we don't want to do it. It's a must practice now. It's a hygiene practice where one needs to start building their digital strategies by ensuring that my input to my digital strategy starts with the quality, right? I don't want to compromise on that. But what are the compromises? Right? There are broadly three things that come out of this, right? Almost 10% of the brand placements, can appear on inappropriate content, right? That's a massive number. 1/3 of digital media investment can be eroded by non-human traffic. And 50% of your ads are not even have an opportunity to see, right? So if you're running video campaigns, you know that 50% of your ads don't have an opportunity to even see, right? So 50% of your media budget has gone waste right now. Just forget brand safety, forget fraud, sheer case of viewability, yeah? So if these are the things, then how do we ensure that this is taken care of and the quality is not compromised when we are buying media, right? Idea is if I'm paying 100 rupees for 1,000 impressions, then as a marketer, as an agency, I want all those 1,000 impressions which are quality impressions, right? Not even one impression I want to waste because nobody is ready to accept 99 rupees instead of 100 rupees CPM, right? If it's 100 rupees CPM, it's 100 rupees CPM. So why do I compromise on the inventory that I'm buying out of it, Yeah. So how do we improve that? What are the components of digital media quality? So broadly, there are 4 components of digital media quality, right? One is fraud. Is my ad served to a real human in first place or not? Right? If it's not shown to a real human, then again, that ad dollar is wasted. Second component is brand safety and suitability, right? Is my ad being placed in the right content, in the right environment or not? Third thing, viewability. As I was talking earlier, right? 50% of your ads are not even have opportunity to be seen, right? So is it have an opportunity to be seen? May not. And in geo, which is a very, very common metrics, right? If I'm targeting India, then my ads needs to be delivered in India. But a lot of times, we look at these matrices in silos, right? A lot of times, brands come to us and tell that, hey, I want to look at fraud, or I want to measure viewability, or I'm interested in brand safety. But imagine a scenario where you're only measuring and tracking fraud, but your viewability is say 20%. So even if it's not a fraudulent impression, but your viewability is nowhere there, then that media dollar is wasted. It's not a quality impression for you. Similarly, it's non-fraud impression, it's a viewable impression, but it's not brand safe impression. Then again, it's a waste of money for you. So fundamentally what we believe is you have to look at all these 4 components in totality, right? Don't look at one or either of it. You need to look at all these 4 components and evaluate every single impression you're buying on all these 4 components, right? Then only that media quality or that media impression is a quality impression. If it's compromised on any of these factors, then it is not a 100% quality impression. Yeah? Any questions so far? I hope it's clear. Cool. Now, a burning question, right? A lot of times, marketers agencies asks us, right? What are the cost implications, right? Do I need to pay out of my pocket? May not be, right? It happens depending on how your media strategy is, how your media buying is. But the question is the cost of doing it versus cost of not doing it, right? And what studies have shown is 1 out of 4 impressions wasted in fraud in unmanaged campaigns where the tool is not deployed, right? You don't deploy the tool, you run campaign as is, then you even never know that where media wastage is happening. And in sheer numbers, right, what we've seen, every billion impression that's been unmonitored, a loss of $120K. This is a US data, I'm sure, but pretty much replicates to the worldwide media strategy, right? Loss to fraud about 120K. Loss to non-viewable impressions is about $500,000 for every billion impressions, and we know how much the volume of impressions we buy, right? About 200K loss to brand safety incidences. That's the volume that we're looking at, right? Now this number may vary here and there depending on the media cost and everything, but it's still a significant number for unmanaged campaigns. So the idea is the cost of doing it versus the cost of not doing it. And forget numbers, as I was saying earlier in a couple of slides back, right? It's the brand reputation. You have pumped in crores of rupees to build brand over last 15, 20, 30 years. And that one incident, one impression can tarnish brand image, right? So again, brand reputation is of extreme critical factor to consider. Now looking at all this, right? How do we better this, right? What are the ways to kind of work around on this? What brand safety and suitability means today? So tag definition says it describes the controls, right? Very important word, controls that companies in digital advertising supply chain deploy or employ to protect a brand's reputation, right? So three words are very important here. One, control. Second, companies and supply chain, right? Now control currently in larger scheme of things are still at a supply side, right? Very few brands have taken control in their hands. So very importantly, it's critical for brands to take their digital campaigns, their digital spends control in their hands. Second thing, companies we covered. So it's organization's responsibility to take that control in hand. They cannot expect a brand to help them solve for this. Yeah. And third thing is supply chain. how do we bring in more transparency in supply chain? How do we make supply chain more accountable for the quality of inventory that they're supplying? Because if they start bettering the quality, obviously the better trust will be built, better transparency will be built, and more ad dollars will start flowing on digital. We have seen the digital growth in India, right? Perhaps it's the highest growing medium. We will be touching 35,000 crores in revenue soon, probably end of next year. But still the question that we were asking 10 years back is still remains valid. कि मेरा ad चल कहाँ पे रहा है? Right? A lot of times the agencies have heard this, a lot of times brands have posted this question because where is the transparency, where is the accountability? And this is what we need to solve for. So how do we start bettering the quality, right? First things first, right? To improve 10% media wastage, which we were talking about earlier, implement brand safety floor, right? Now what brand safety floor means? So there are two terms when it comes to brand safety. It's brand safety and suitability. So safety is these content buckets which are unsafe for any given brand on this universe, right? It's applicable for every single brand that they should stay away from these categories, right? Be it an FMCG brand, be it an automobile brand, or whoever it is, right? So we call it brand unsafe or brand safety floor categories. So just block these categories if you're running your campaigns without even thinking, yeah? But the thing is, one size doesn't fit all, right? That's where suitability comes into the place. Now look at this content, right? It probably swimsuit illustrator or, but is it bad content? May or may not, right? For some brands which are probably targeting to kids, they don't want to be present in this kind of environment. But lifestyle brands, travel brands, car brands, gambling brands, they don't mind being present in such kind of content. So it's your brand and your policies versus the other brand and their policies, right? So you can't say it's a brand safe or unsafe environment. No, it's brand suitable, depending on how your brand looks at their campaigns and their policies. Yeah. Let's look at some of the common misconceptions when we deploy brand suitability strategies. Yeah. Just round of hands, guys. Keywords are the best and only way to protect my brand, right? So keyword blocking. I mean, there are very few of us, but have you heard of keyword blocking, guys? Have you done keyword blockings? Yeah. So is this the only way or the best way to protect the brand reputation? Clearly no, right? All of us agree. Yeah. So not necessarily only keyword blocking is going to give you brand protection that you desire. Then what can it do, right? So let's look at keyword versus ontology. Ontology is essentially understanding the language and the meaning of that language, right? So we deploy ontology when we start categorizing the content in different verticals, different buckets. Yeah. Now keyword is a literal meaning of that keyword. Now, for example, in an article, if a keyword comes as an apple, right? If you start blocking keyword as an apple, then it will block everything that where the apple has come up. Now, apple can in one article can be an iPhone, in another article can be a fruit, in another article can be a chemist next to you, right? So what you really want to block, what you are really concerned about, right? Are you targeting a tech guy? Are you targeting a lifestyle guy? Are you targeting a guy who is interested in fitness? Or you're targeting a guy who is looking for medicines and stuff? So a tool needs to understand the context where that keyword has come and then start categorizing that in different buckets. So ontology plays a key role when you start defining the brand suitable categories, brand non-suitable categories. Yeah. What are the best practices then? So if you have a list of keywords, you have to review it regularly, right? You cannot just create a list of keywords at the beginning of the campaign and sit on it for 6 months. No, you have to review it every 15 days, 20 days, every month. Because, for example, next year the elections will come up, right? You probably will not have that as a part of your keywords right now. War breaks up, then what are you going to do, right? Some accident happens, rail accident happened a couple of months back or last month, right? Are you going to review that? So you have to do that. You have to keep the latest happenings in mind and start reviewing the keyword list. You have to be very precise, right? Avoid short keywords, right? Because that kind of limits your scale, right? Use exact phrases sparingly, but though. Avoid duplicates, right? Very simple thing. And beware of words with multiple meanings. Very, very important, right? And I think what we need to really keep in mind is we don't need a list of 5,000 keywords, right? You have multiple other ways to kind of take care of that. But if you're looking at keyword targeting, just be very precise, keep a limited list, and don't go overboard with the keyword blocking. News, very interesting, and a lot of our clients come to us and ask us, what do we do with news? So it's not a good idea to block news topics. True or false? Any views on that? I want to block news because it's harmful, right? Because anything can happen.
We have an answer.
It's not a good idea to block news topics. Yeah. We know, so news, the meaning of news has changed, right? We all know that. You log on to any news portal now, it has become probably infotainment, we call it, right? It's not a news portal anymore, barring a couple of them. So you have every type of content on news sites, right? And it hardly, you can hardly differentiate between a news site versus an entertainment site, right? So how do I ensure that I need that scale? I need to be present on the news site, but at the same time, I don't want to be present on the content that doesn't suit my brand ethos, right? For example, a rail accident that happened. How can I ensure that my ads are not there? Right? It's not a right time to be on that kind of article at that point of time. Be a little empathetic with the audiences and the situation at that point of time. So we know that, right? Past few years have been very challenging from news perspective, right? With COVID coming in, the political scenario globally, not only in India, right? How it's changed. So handling evolving news cycle is very, very important, right? We know the tools at disposal, right? And what kind of content works for us, what kind of content that doesn't work for us. So you don't have to really care about the destination, but just be careful about the content that you want to avoid. I cannot afford to be not being present on, say, Times of India or Hindustan Times for that matter, right? But can I avoid murder content? Can I avoid accidental content? Can I avoid drug abuse? Can I avoid adult content, sexual content? Yes, I can, right? So at the same time, it will give you scale and the protection. Yeah. And going forward, it's going to be even extremely critical because you have to have a little bit of political understanding of the situation. There are 4 or 5 state elections that are happening next year, and of course the big one is in the pipeline, right? So we need to know how do you want to tackle when that flow of information starts coming in, and how do I tackle that? So we need to have a point of view on that. We have to have a strategy on that. But doing this is very time consuming. I don't have time, my agency don't have time to deploy all this. Is that really true? No. So it's not a time consuming process. It's one time, and at best then you have to start reviewing it on a monthly basis. But there are tools, and of course DoubleVerify, but there are tools that can help you automate this. There are tools that can help you prune down all the operational efforts and make you leverage the best of the tools very easily, right? Now it's a brand plugin, sorry, but you need an end-to-end protection, right? And it needs to be automized. You have programmatic campaigns, you have non-programmatic campaigns. Now, fundamentally, any tool gives better protection on non-programmatic campaigns because it's not dependent on DSP. where the programmatic campaigns, there is a lot of dependence on DSPs, right? What DSPs perhaps approve of the tool partnership is very little than what a tool can really do. So from brand suitability perspective, all these blue boxes or green boxes, whatever that color is that you see, can be deployed at a direct media buying level, not at a DSP or programmatic level. And at the DSP level, there are very few options out of these. Perhaps will be the first one, which is 90 plus brand safety suitability categories. That comes down to 28 when it comes to buying programmatically via DSPs. Right? So I have programmatic campaigns where I'm buying programmatically. I have non-programmatic campaigns where my settings on non-programmatic are like with all these controls is very granular. On programmatic, then I don't have any control. This doesn't make sense, right? I am buying media. For me, every impression is same irrespective of the way I'm buying. So what DV has done is we have created a solution where you can literally take all these post-bid settings and apply it for your programmatic or pre-bid campaigns as well. Yeah. So you don't have to now worry about, I don't have less protection on programmatic or pre-bid and more protection on post-bid, right? You don't have to worry about that. You just take all your post-bid settings, push it in the DSP, and now you have one universal setting for all your campaigns. Clear? Yeah. Not all content from well-known publishers is safe. Yeah, we spoke about it, right? It's repetitive. But yeah, I mean, Times of India is a well-known publisher. HT is a well-known publisher. There are so many well-known publishers, right? And they have their reputation. They've built it over the years. And it's a credible source of information, right? We rely on them because they bring in that credibility. It's not a UGC. It's not an influencer-led campaign. They are accountable and they take that accountability very seriously. But how can we, sorry, it's a busy slide. But how can we tackle that, right? If 20%, 30% of that content is not suitable for me, then what are the ways, right? First of all, set your brand values, set your brand ethos very clearly, right? Are the topics or current events that are particularly we are sensitive to, right? Murder, drug abuse, violence, disasters, right? You don't want to be present there. So categorize them, identify them beforehand, right? How do we feel about supporting trusted news websites, right? So we want to be there, we want to support them because they're trusted source, but take care of it, right? Are the social justice causes that we publicly support as a company, or we don't, right? If we don't, then let's not get into it, right? Because it can become a controversy someday or the other. Has our company ever experienced any negative news around specific events, right? Be it board of directors, be it your financials, be it your brand endorser, right? So we all know what happened with Hardik Pandya when he was on Coffee with Karan, right? And he was sponsored, he was brand endorser of Gillette at that point of time. So Gillette had to pull down all their ads, right? So that becomes a very critical situation at some point of time, right? So if something like that happens, then can we be proactive and have that covered in our digital strategies already? Are there any sites or apps we know we want to stay away from, right? Make an exclusion list, make an inclusion list beforehand, right? I don't want to be present on, say, santabanda.com, right? I don't know. Or it can be xyz.com. Then can I make a part of exclusion or inclusion list beforehand so that I don't advertise on those sites at all? Yeah. But with this, probably the question is, am I compromising on my reach and frequency objective, right? Am I compromising on the scale? Any views adding brand suitability settings diminishes the scale of my supply and reach. Yeah. I mean, very few, but anybody has experienced this before, right? No. We have enough supply, right? Massive. We are like 1.4 billion people, 500 million internet users, right? So we don't have dearth of supply. And the supply is good, supply is bad, but taking care of your brand suitability is not going to hamper your supply if you do it cleverly and if you don't be overtly using the tool at your disposal, right? So use it cleverly. There are multiple options to do that. Don't superimpose multiple options. Use it cleverly, and you will never see this problem coming your way. So balancing protection and scale is equally important. How do we do that now? Again, a very busy slide. So this talks about 90 categories in which we have bucketed the content in, right? So if you see the right corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories, these are brand safety floor categories. So nobody wants to be advertising on these categories, so just block it. The top row, the purple ones, are the categories which are sensitive categories. And there are risk tiers that we have built. There are 3 risk tiers: high risk, medium risk, and low risk. So you can pick and choose the risk tier that you want and apply your settings. And the green ones or the blue ones in between are categories where you can do your brand suitability settings, right? And when I say settings, you will either block these categories or keep these categories open to advertise on. For example, if you are a kids brand, you don't want to be advertising on alcohol related content, right? So you block alcohol category. And vice versa, if an alcohol brand, you don't want to be presenting on parenting category or a family category, right? So you block those categories. So as a brand, out of these 90 categories, you will block, say, 20 categories, and you will have 70 categories open, which gives you protection and the scale at the same time. Any questions? Yeah.
What is accuracy?
Sorry?
What is the
Accuracy
accuracy level?
level, 99.75%. Yeah. Yeah. But for everybody, I think it's, yeah.
So the content we're talking about, the mapping, it takes into account the images as well?
Yes.
That's right, because regular safe content might have a picture which is provocative.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's not a problem. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's fine.
So picture, in the sense, it takes into consideration the alt tag, and it also takes into consideration, again, as I was saying, right, it's not the keyword, it's the context of that page, right? Now, for example, as I was saying, there are 3 risk tiers, right? High, medium, low. Now, let's take an example of alcohol, the second category, right? Alcohol will have 3 risk tiers: high risk alcohol content, medium risk alcohol content, low risk alcohol content. So low risk alcohol content can be my cocktail recipes, right? Now, if you as a brand are okay with cocktail recipes, you select low risk. So I am okay being present on low risk content. High risk content can be drunk drive disaster or an accident, right? So you don't want to be there, right? So that's how you categorize the content. And again, a salsa can be a sauce, a salsa can be a dance form, or anything else. So how do we kind of make it a part of hobbies and activities, or making a part of recipes and lifestyle, right? So that way we kind of start categorizing this.
I think, but there have been some, like, I'm still not clear, sorry, so just asking again. Say, for example, if we were to take something like gossip and celebrity gossip, right? While it might be a safe category from an entertainment point of view for a marketer, but the picture, say, which is used, and the alt text you're saying does not take into account the picture, which could
Yeah.
be not suitable for, say, a product which is for teenagers, for example.
Yeah.
So in that case, those nuances are not covered, right? Because
They
it's
are.
the picture which is getting picked and not the alt text.
They are. So pictures are also getting covered. Yeah. They do get covered.
And then I similarly assume, because Quora is some place where we have seen a lot of challenges. So you say UGC forums.
Yeah.
There also, because it's a lot of UGC generated content, it's
Yeah.
able to pick pictures and provide that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where AI and ML comes into the place, and also human intervention, right? So it's not only system driven. There is a team of ontological experts who are scanning through it at a sample level basis. So most of the times that gets taken care of.
It's like the
Unless,
0.3%.
yeah, sometimes it might be a miss.
Thanks.
Yeah. I don't have to ask this question, but just to make it interactive, we have done this. So, fraud doesn't impact, of course it does, right? It's a burning question. So there are a lot of stats that are floating around, right? This is what I was talking offline with somebody. Somebody come and claim that there is 20% fraud, there is 30% fraud. But just be mindful that there are managed and there are unmanaged things, right? If you buy a lot of affiliates, if you buy a lot of non-transparent media, perhaps you will see higher fraud rates. If you're buying a manned media or a managed media, you will not see so much of fraud rates happening, right? Because that gets filtered at every single level, where the data centers are, where the ad servers are, or where your DSPs are, and the third-party verification tools like us. It filters down, right? So every single step takes care of the fraud detection some way or the other, right? So if you're buying it from credible sources, you don't see so much of fraud coming your way. If you're not buying it from credible sources, you will see fraud percentages going pretty high, right? There are two things again that you look at. One is when you buy impressions and you go beyond impressions, right? Both the events are independent to each other, right? So fraud may not happen on impression, but may happen at a lead level or a click level, because we all know how performance campaigns work, right? And how performance is delivered. And what we've seen is fraud follows money, right? Right now, if you see the fraud percentage on CTV is significantly high compared to on desktop or on mobile, because that's new and emerging media, right? In fact, GroupM has released a report maybe last year sometime where they claim that about 15% of the impressions that you buy on CTV are run when the TV or the screen is turned off. Right? So TV is off, but the impressions are being served. And that's massive 14-15% number. We have also seen it. In some cases, it's as low as 3%, 4%, 5%. In some cases, it's more than 15-20% also. Right? So be very careful when you're buying CTV. But what is an ad fraud, right? And what does it do? It's an invalid traffic, very in a layman words. What does it do? First and foremost, negative brand association, right? You're on some phishing website or something like that, right? You don't want to be there. Wasted advertiser media spend, we all know that. Third point, very important, skewed performance metrics, right? Because you may the tool may show you that some websites are like 30% fraudulent, some websites are 10% fraudulent. It's true or not, you never know, right? You perhaps are compromising on valid traffic just to show the numbers of invalid traffic, right? So be very careful of such situation and such scenario. And of course, it's decrease in advertisers' bottom line, right? What are the main three things that you should ask whenever you are looking at fraud detection, right? One is coverage. How what is the length and what is the width of fraud tracking? So at DV, this slightly older number, it's crossed probably 3 million now. 3 million plus bot and malware devices are identified on a daily basis, right? So we negate it then and there. Thousands of fraudulent websites, apps are identified. Now, there are new detection algorithms that needs to be developed and deployed to kind of tackle different fraud signatures, right? And that needs to happen very frequently, and we do that almost on a weekly basis, right? So coverage is very important. Second thing is accuracy. So there are two ways to measure fraud, right? One is being a deterministic approach, and second is probabilistic approach. What probabilistic approach does it looks at the fraud signature and it gives a percentage of it being a fraud. So it will say that according to us, this has 80% propensity of being fraud. And then you choose your digestible levels, right, when you set it up. That's not how it works, right? A fraud is a fraud or fraud is not a fraud. And that's what we follow. We follow deterministic methodology where we claim that it's a fraud or it's a non-fraud, right? As simple as that. And third thing is speed, right? How frequently we are doing this, right? So DV fraud tables are updated every 8 minutes, right? It's almost real time. And we send these signatures to our DSP partners every 15 minutes because that's the DSP limitation, right? So every 15 minutes, DSPs are updated with the fraud signatures that are coming their way, right? Again, giving you much better transparency and protection for fraud. Any questions? Cool. We spoke about this. We don't need an answer. But 50% of your impressions are not even seen, right? Massive issue. And in some of the social platforms, it's even lesser than this. And some of the very prominent social platforms, I don't want to name them, but so if my ad is 50% not seen, then my 50% budget is gone there itself, right? And I'm still paying for that. But now with the ad verification tool, at least you know where those 50% issues are and how can I tackle that and how can I better that 50% to 60, 70, 80%, right? So IB definition for brands, I just want to spend a minute. So a display definition to measure viewability is 50% of an ad must be viewable for at least 1 second. And for video, it's 50% of the ads must be viewable for at least 2 seconds. And that's the definition of viewability from IB's perspective. But me as a brand, I'm not happy with this definition. You might say that, right? This is very small. Can I set up my own definition? Yes, you can, right? You can literally change this 50% to 100% to 75% to 80%. And you can move that 1 second or 2 seconds to 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, whichever way you want, right? And that gives you flexibility to measure your performance, your ads performance on every single platform with this singular information, right? Otherwise, if you see YouTube's definition is different than a Snap's definition, than a Facebook's definition, than a TikTok's definition, right? So how do I do apple to apple comparison? So now you have this opportunity where you have one single platform, one single definition, and then measure every single platform in your plan and do apple to apple comparison and optimize your media spends from viewability perspective. Yeah?
So by learning, when we say that, probably the impression is viewable, right? And viewable to a relevant user.
Yeah.
So the tendency of engagement is high.
Yeah.
But why is the case when tags are implemented, the engagement falls?
Tags, is that any peculiar case that you have seen where tags implemented and engagement has fallen?
I've usually seen, not with my current experience, but with my overall experience, whenever brands who use viewable tags, CTRs and post-click metrics fall. But if I see a presentation right now, if a viewable impression is to a right user, as per understanding and technicality, the engagement should grow.
Yeah.
So why is the case? Or maybe probably I have seen use cases wherein the engagement has fallen, but you have case studies where the engagement has grown.
See, ideally, it should be the other way around, as you're saying, right? It can't be where the viewability is high and the audience is right and engagement has fallen because of tags, right? I think it's probably not, you may not seen the right cases then, I would say that, because what we have seen.
These are my mind, so that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Right now, when I'm seeing this is quite interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of things I didn't know. And it's probably, I was thinking it's good to know, but I think it's need to know.
Yeah. So.
That's why it just popped up.
No, I think valid point, but typically what we have seen is it only grows, right? The engagement grows and the attention also grows. Now viewability is becoming a baseline now, right? It's standard for everyone. But what after viewability also, right? That's the question. I have now viewability done. I'm spending millions of dollars on video campaigns. I'm currently only measuring whether it's 60%, 70%, and how do I optimize that? What happens after that, as you rightly said, right? Engagement and attention. So now we are also have launched attention matrices where you can literally measure attention on like 55 parameters, right? In terms of whether the volume has been muted, whether it's they've played with the volume up down, if it's an expandable creative, then whether it's has expanded, whether mouse rollover has happened or not, right? So all these matrices will now come into the play, which will be on top of your viewability, because viewability has become a baseline now, right? And it should, obviously, as you said, should work in the marketer's favor. Yeah? Cool, thanks. Of course, and viewability on CTV, right, is CTV is the next big thing. Everybody is looking at this 55-inch screen. That's where the premium audiences are, which is what we are assuming right now. About 25 million screens is what everybody is speaking about, which can grow exponentially in the next couple of years. Now, how do I become, or how do I start learning right at the beginning when I'm deploying CTV campaigns, right? So there are multiple things one can look at. One is, of course, which is very standard quartile reporting. Whether my ad is, how long my ad is played for, right? 25%, 50%, 70%, so on and so forth. Second, very important thing is fully on screen. Fully on screen is a pseudo to viewability on digital, on CTV, right? Currently, I think we've just received MRC accreditation for measurement of viewability on CTV. Nobody else has right now, I think. So this gives you a comparative analysis in terms of viewability on CTV versus other devices, right? And power awareness, right? Fully on screen determines if the app is aware of TV's power state, which means whether the TV has been turned off and the impression has been served, or it is served when it was on, right? So we can give that number as well, right? Very interesting.
How does DV do it? Like, how do you calculate fully on screen? What's the
So there are multiple ways to do that, right? So first and foremost, whether it's on tab on the home screen or not, where the ad is running, or you are somewhere else. Second thing is we look at the dimensions of the TV and dimensions of the ad, and we match those, right? So there are ways to kind of build that around, because if your ad is probably running in a pre-roll or it's a masthead, you call it, I don't know what's that format is, right? What format is that, and then whether it's viewable or not. So there are multiple ways. I have
On the CTV screen, like, will there be incidences of off-screen impression burn also?
Yeah. See, the thing is, what happens, my hypothesis is, usually you turn off the screen, you don't turn off the set-top box.
Which is the power awareness.
Which is power of, yeah.
Awareness. But let's say because the predominant use case of a CTV is still like content consumption, like mostly entertainment, right? So either
Yeah.
you're on OTT or a YT, something of that kind of a platform.
Yeah.
And there, like, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, that what would be those incidences where the impression is, is a non-viewable impression.
Okay. So, so in CTV, probably there are two ways to look at it, depending on the inventory that you buy, right? So if it's again in what do you call it, in-stream inventory, then in-stream inventory will be exactly similar to your laptop and mobile behavior, right? So that's where probably your viewability questions will come, whether it's in the screen, it's off the screen. I mean, second scroll, first scroll, or whatever that comes your way. Maybe that. And whether it's skipped, it's non-skipped. Broadly, yeah. Yeah. So, we spoke about a lot of challenges, right? But we spoke about solutions also. So broadly, what are the things, what are the challenges that we see, right? And what to do to take in charge of those challenges. One is take control. Guys, as an advertiser, you have to take control. It's high time. You can't rely on your supply partners. You need to control all your deliveries, and you need to automate them, right? How do you do that, right? And you take control and basically ensure that your customized brand suitability setting is in place. maintain minimum viewability with historical data, right? You have to have that KPI, and you have to talk to your supply partners basis that KPI, and ensure obviously fraudulent impressions are avoided. Transparency is a big challenge. So demand disclosure of sources of data, right? Demand disclosure of certification of the technologies, right? It's very important, right? Ensure data accuracy and quality from suppliers, from your agencies, and from your tech partners. How do you do that? You have to choose your partner very carefully. You have to have a credible partner. Evaluate the technology. Don't just go by the numbers, because anybody can come and throw any number at you. But evaluate the tech stack. Evaluate their accreditations. Evaluate whether they are open for audit by third parties, right? Because you don't want to work with an auditor who is not open for audit, right? So don't be in that situation. And of course, ad verification, which is what I want to sell, but ensure ads are being delivered to a real human in a brand safe and relevant environment and in the intended geo, right? Very basic, right? Ad verification, do that. Importantly, activate pre-bid solutions, right? Now you don't have to rely on measurement and optimization and pay money and then demand money back, and it's no longer needed, right? You have programmatic now widely being accepted. You have programmatic tools with you. Leverage pre-bid solutions, protect your brand even before the bid is placed, right? So you're not wasting media monies. Don't waste media monies, right? Save your media dollars. Don't pay for unwanted impressions, right? And supply path optimization, very important topic for everyone. Be very mindful with your supply partners. Again, demand transparency and look at where your ads are going. Every single impression is going. What is your auction domain? What is your delivery domain, right? Most of the times we don't have visibility on what supply partners are doing. So demand those questions, ask those questions and demand transparency. And the last slide for me, key takeaways. First, quality builds trust, of course. And trust is extremely critical if you want to grow as an industry, because still I understand and I've seen where a lot of questions are thrown at digital agencies for which they still don't have answer, right? And the moment there is no answer, the confidence drops down, the budget gets cut, and we're still at a situation which we were 5 years back, right? So transparency is extremely critical for success. Verify everywhere, right? Again, take control. Don't rely on your supply partners, because nobody can certify their own homework, right? You can't sign your own homework, right? You need somebody to do that for you, right? You need an auditor, right? So verify everywhere, be it social, be it programmatic, be it direct bias. Don't think about any impression as a clean impression. Align your marketing efforts with your brand values, value-based marketing, and measurement. Leverage privacy-friendly solutions to drive performance. Cookies are fading away. God knows when, but someday it will happen. But be future ready. Deploy privacy-friendly solutions, and be ready to be a sophisticated marketer for future. Thank you. That was longish, and thanks for being attentive. Any questions? No. Oh, bola.
If a brand chooses viewability of impression as 5 seconds, and a publisher has a benchmark of approximately 3 seconds, so the viewability of campaign will fall, right?
Yeah. So, two ways to look at it. One, is it better than IAB standards? But B, it's lower than the brand standards.
But
Right.
you give this report better than IIB standard.
So anything better than more than 2 seconds is IAB standard. It's better, right? So it's the number that matters, and it's not only for one platform that will happen, right? The same definition will be applicable for all other platforms. So it's just the number which differs. Cool. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, we're around till evening. Jaiti's here. She's from my team. So happy to catch up with you guys over coffee. The coffee is outside, so we can grab a cup. Thank you.